Hey guys, great to see everyone as we are all safely returned from our incredible International Mandela Effect Conference for 2023
Woo.
in Connecticut. I don't know about you guys, but I had an absolutely wonderful time.
Well, it was awesome. It was so good to see everybody. It's so good to be together in person since, I mean, it's been a long time. 4 years.
I can't believe it's been that long since the communities come together like that. It was just as amazing having so many people to meet, so many new people to converse with and share ideas. What do you think about it, Chris?
Yeah, I thought that was one of the best things is meeting people, talking to talking to people, and so many things became synchronistic. I was having conversations with people that would one thing would lead to another, and everything was important. So between everyone that was at the conference, the speakers, the entire experience was like on a level that was just way up there. So I was really appreciating it.
Shane, what are your thoughts on it, bud?
I feel like we created one of those node points, where you experience something, your awareness was expanded a little bit. I love that about it, hearing all the different talks and like really being just really trying to take on other people's view of how they see it. I find that to be really interesting. And instead of like debating, and there wasn't even really any debating, there was totally opposite views about things, which was cool, but it was a discussion and no censorship. That's the best part of it for me, is that people can talk, they can share their ideas. Everyone's considered having a valid point of view. And to me, that's the main thing about this community, that we can actually work together. We can get along, even if we see things a little bit differently. It's just our unique perspective. So for me, that's like the whole kind of archetype that the Mandela effect has been for life, really. We can all get along in life, the broader whole, too. So for me, that's what it was, the community and coming together like that.
I gotta say, that was one of my favorite moments in the conference. That panel, and you guys will see the panel when it comes out. I assure you, it will not be a question which one we're referencing. But that panel with the folks that totally opposite ends of the belief spectrums,
Right.
and yet they, like you said, Shane, had a full discussion. There was no disrespect, there was no negative, there was no I'm right, you're wrong, none of that. It was a real discussion on ideas and points, even though half the panel didn't agree belief wise with the other half. It was something to see, and something we don't see enough of nowadays. Would you guys agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, and we had an exploding watermelon Mandela effect at the
Right.
conference too, right? Yeah, so for a lot of people that was new. So you remember that, Jerry, right?
Well, what I loved about that, yeah, the fruity day, the day that I opened up with the watermelon. So every day had a theme about it too. And I'm
Mhm.
sure that's going to kind of come out in the videos and stuff also, is each day had its own strange theme that emerged, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, and so for a lot of people, the whole concept that if you buy a watermelon, it might explode, that appeared to be a Mandela effect for people as well. So yeah, and I was getting into Fruit Loops, and yeah, the other speakers were talking about upside down bananas, and fruit seemed to be definitely a theme for one of those days.
Yeah, and it was like the part I added kind of at the last minute that I felt guided to, share that parable where Jesus is talking about judging things by, or knowing by their fruits they produce, which I love, ties directly in with Cynthia's how good can it get? It makes it to where you're always looking for the fruit in situations rather than being focused on the thorns and the thistles, right? Because life's just like that. You can really get the fruit out of things that even are tough, you know?
That was
Wow, we're
beautiful.
we're still learning lessons from that. That's amazing. I was going to say, go ahead, Cynthia.
Oh, I just love the way people ask questions. And it seemed like that was at the heart of the very respectful dialogue and conversations, because with such a shared focus on asking questions and not having any limits to the kind of questions we can ask, then that's what made it so much fun, I'm pretty sure. And I think that's the core of science itself, when science is conducted in such a way that the experimental results are provided in a form of thoughtful consideration. and we're not just assuming that the old presumptions are always true. And I think when we brought together Tom Campbell, for example, Roger Marsh, myself, that first day, Saturday, was incredible. And then Shane, excuse me, Shane, your Sunday, but Chris and Sean were Saturday also. This just every day was just such an extraordinary possibility into exploring these questions, exploring where we can go when we follow this art, really, of asking respectful questions, sharing the information we get, respecting one another, and just drawing ever deeper, multidimensional realizations out of all of this. And I think that was the real treasure. The treasure is in ourselves, and it's in our interdimensionality, in our shared feeling of the theme for Saturday, which we felt was love. This is very powerful and very surprising to hear this coming from Tom Campbell, but very, very heartening as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tom was full of surprises, right?
Absolutely. I was going to say, speaking of Tom Campbell,
Yes.
those on Patreon have just had the ability to see Tom's talk. And for those of you that have seen it, you'll know what we're talking about here. Those that haven't, please definitely go watch the talk, because there's one point that, well, there were a number of points for those here in the room that will know my jaw hit the floor. Luckily, I wasn't on camera during most of those points. But there was one point in his talk, aside from the one where Shane and Cynthia got a darn good laugh at my facial expressions. I'm not going to bring that up, but there was one point in the talk where he talked about the four-way, right? You guys remember the four-way talk?
Four-way spray, nasal spray.
Yeah. Four-way nasal spray. Yeah.
So this was an exciting story, and I don't want to give away the full punchline, but there's no way that we can't without talking about, by talking about this. But he had the nasal spray. So Tom's really, really concerned as an older gentleman about having an addiction to different things, and especially things that they put in nasal sprays, right? Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I was going to say, before you talk about that, I just want to set the scene for people a little bit, because Tom Campbell's been on Open Tables before, and we went through a list of so many things to see if he was Mandela affected. And there were some things where he was, he remembers things differently than they actually were, but he still seemed to be kind of a skeptic, like misremembering, and Leonard Bernstein could be the reason for Berenstein Bears, and, et cetera, et cetera. So when people watch that on Open Tables, it appeared that the way he felt was he wasn't totally on board with the whole Mandela Effect concept. But I think that, and Jerry's going to talk more about this, our four-way here, when we had him on Open Tables, may have had an effect on his timeline. So I just want to brief it and talk about that first. And people that have watched that will know exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, that's perfect, because for years, Jerry and I love the work of Tom Campbell, and we reach out in comments to him and things like that, and you always get the reply like, "Oh, Tom really isn't into the Mandela Effect." So, and I was really surprised, because it seemed to be so much into the work he was doing, and so for me, I feel like we got him to take a serious look at it by this whole thing. So I feel like, IMEC is kind of responsible for him, being able to tie so much into his own work. And I don't want to say too much, but, I was
Right.
just thinking that butterfly effect. Jerry and I were talking about, what was it, 3 a.m. We were mind blown, because we were thinking of how far Tom's come with his talk, to where, because we loved his My Big Toe, his theory of everything. And
Right.
just to see he was able to incorporate some things with the Mandela Effect, with all of his research and everything, was it just felt great. So when he had this personal Mandela Effect that he shared with us at the conference, that he almost felt like the universe had given him for the conference, just for us, I was mind blown again. I was like, wow, look how far, even Tom Campbell, is like, and he's like my guy over at the, what do you call it, the, Robert Monroe's Institute or whatever.
Monroe Institute, yes. Sir.
Right. And, I have friends that are more into other people there and stuff. I'm like, well, he's the first one that finally really acknowledged it, really took it seriously, to the point of just having personal interactions, which I always recommend we all do. get involved because the universe will interact right back to you. It's not, you don't have to be Tom Campbell or one of us. It's there for each and every one of us, and it's there to play with us, you know.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that larger consciousness system that he talks about.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. So the nasal spray story. Sorry to interrupt.
So I'm with you, Shane. I'm not gonna lie. I was scared when Tom Campbell first coming up as the first talk because, like you were saying, he wasn't exactly shouting the Mandela effect from the rooftops. Okay, he wasn't exactly most on board scientist that we had. Of course, that would be our resident scientist, Cynthia. But but Tom Campbell I was really scared that he was going to throw the word Mandela effect into his talk 3 or 4 times and call it a day, right? I didn't expect it to go where it went. Well, where did it go, Jerry? Well, here's where it went. Once again, the four-way. So there are four of us. He was honorable enough to come on and discuss with us the first time. The four of us invited him back. So while he's writing this talk, he's having some nasal issues. And he's afraid as an older gentleman of being addicted to different chemicals. As we know, there's chemicals in everything we use nowadays. So he had a number of nasal sprays, 4 nasal sprays, ironically enough, for this story. You'll understand the irony later. And he went through each ingredient with his wife, and he had her search each ingredient on the internet, letter by letter, words that none of us could pronounce, including Tom himself. And it come down to one nasal spray that still had chemicals in it, unpronounceable chemicals nonetheless, but there were only 4 of them in this spray. A very simple spray. None of them were addictive chemicals. So this is the one that they chose to use. Well, it runs out. So they order a new bottle. The new bottle shows up and he picks up the nasal spray. Wait a minute, there's not enough chemicals in this. We ordered the wrong thing, right?
Right.
So let's go make sure, let's grab the other bottle and make sure that, they compare and see what we did wrong. And when they grabbed the other bottle, lo and behold, to their surprise, how many chemicals were in the other bottle, folks?
Yeah, just one.
Just one.
And it was called four-way because it had 4 ingredients.
Right.
Yes, so that didn't make sense either. Like, why are they still calling it four-way with only one ingredient? So,
Right. Like there's no like 4-way sinus anything. There's no reason they should be calling it 4-way because their whole selling point is now moot thanks to the Mandela effect. Now this happened to physicist Tom Campbell, who was open-minded to the Mandela effect but had not had an experience until this point. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when he told this story, I could not have been happier. I was ready to start jumping to the
Oh,
rooftop.
everybody was. Everyone was clapping.
yeah, we applauded. Yeah,
Yeah.
we all.
One of the few times that you actually got a full applause for a cool story, and that was amazing. Yeah.
If we had party poppers, I'd have been popping them. Like that was amazing to me. And I can't wait for you guys to hear it out of Tom's mouth. Don't take our word for it. Please make sure you watch that talk because there's so much in there. But that story right there, folks, I think that was just absolutely mind-blowing to borrow Shane's word. And we, like he said, we discussed this later on that evening, and we were both just, dude, did you just see what I just saw? Like we were little kids discussing what just happened, right? Am I wrong, Shane?
Oh no, we were just like that. Yeah. Just kind of just amazed, because so many of us feel like you can't make an impact and you can't do something. And it's almost like we positively influenced the hero of ourselves, just, I don't know. It was just a cool moment to realize that, just how far we've come and how what kind of effect we're having and all the people that came together and just the space we were creating and, how important that was, those connections that were being made. So really the whole thing, it was like a package deal for me, on the, the 3D level and the higher levels.
And I think it takes this whole topic to a higher level also in the sense that where can it go next? What is the implication of the Mandela effect? What is the ultimate gift that it might be conferring upon us at this time? These are unsolved questions, but just to be able to take it to a higher and higher level, like we're doing, is the whole purpose of IMEC. And I'm so honored to be such a big part of this moment with all of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd
Me
second
too.
that.
Yeah, it's a tool and you can really use it in a really positive way. You know, that's what I always encourage people to do.
Next up for Tom Campbell, if he starts talking light language, we've made a big effect on him. Can you imagine that?
That may take a couple more shifts, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't put it out there too far, right?
So yeah, you guys
But-
coming up here, we'll be releasing Tom Campbell on YouTube, and then we're just going to be trickling them out as they get edited every few days. So Patreon,
I can't
of
wait
course.
for the rest of the talks, man. There's so many
Yeah.
great talks, so much great information come out of this conference. I can't wait for the public to see it.
Same here, absolutely.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead,
just
Chris.
yeah, I just wanted to add too. So the conference was held here in Brantford, Connecticut, you know, in the building where my office is. And time seems like it's been very dramatic for me since the conference, especially everyone that was there. Everyone that was here, as well as you that are listening, that that are seeing the Mandela Effect. You've got something in your DNA related to time. There's going to be some kind of a common link or something like that we're going to discover. But just to kind of give you an example of what it's been like for me. So last
You
Friday,
had an anomaly in your office, right?
yeah. So here's an example. So last Friday, I'm going. It's the end of the day. I'm usually the last person in the building. Actually, I'm going to my truck, which I park on the upper lot, and I'm walking out to my truck, and like me normally, I'm just speaking some light language, and all of a sudden I look down, and there's like this big puddle of water next to my truck. And I'm like, what the heck? Where did this water come from? I turn around and the entire parking lot is soaking wet with puddles everywhere. And I just walked through it and it was dry as a bone. So, but that's like my office property building here has been like shifting through time. So, yeah, so that's sometimes the effect I think that could happen when so many people come together that have a certain type of frequency. It almost makes that area begin to like vibrate and shift. So I just wanted to mention that, but things are under control now. But I've been getting those experiences, and I'm like, wow, like reality just shifted for me. So
Yeah, and the clock's all drifting apart in that real strange way,
Yeah, we
Yeah,
got a
at the
picture of it.
Oh, yes.
Pull this
Oh,
picture up.
yeah, that's right.
So
I was-
each clock had like a 5-minute drift between
Yeah,
them.
but they were all like even at one point, and then it's like and it's not something you have to like set them every few days and line them back up, Chris.
So can you tell us about this, Chris? Because you've got the most experience with these clocks.
Yeah, and as far as I know, at least two of those clocks are new. They were like bought within the last year. So, on one side of the spectrum, you could say, well, maybe the batteries were going dead, or maybe the quartz crystal inside of it was wonky, or maybe it was wonky because of how we were affecting the frequencies. But yeah, so between the clocks, I believe that there's one clock that was a 5 minutes in difference, which I liked because it gave me more time for my talk. It gave me time. And then the other two clocks were like maybe a minute or two off from each other. So yeah, it was like really strange about how the first thing we spotted was how time was off. And it's a good clue because what really is time?
Well, those are the strongest weak batteries I've ever seen, because for dying batteries, they lasted 3 whole days still, right?
That's the other exactly.
Every time I've seen a clock slow down from a dying battery, it had less than a day left. I'm just saying that's been my experience. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But ladies and gentlemen, that we had some incredible experiences at this year's International Mandela Effect Conference. We always do. We had bilocation in the first conference. We had some really strange time anomalies in this conference. Every time you pull this community together, it's like we have the most odd events occur. And it's not, how do I put this? It's not like, you got one person claiming, you got a room full, literally full of researchers. All right. We hear a paranormal topic. There's 9 of us already looking into it, and 5 of us going to find the rest of the researchers to continue looking into it. Okay. We dig into these things. So it's not like it isn't well researched, well documented amongst a group of us. There's so much goes on. It's magic. It is truly, truly magic. And I don't even know another word for it, ladies and gentlemen. This is why you've got to keep up with us. You've got to start coming to these events. You guys are really missing out on something so, so, so unique. Would you guys like to add anything before we close this out?
Just, yeah, there were so many experiences. Some of the people that were on the wait list told us, for example, that they purchased the tickets, which they were grateful for, and then later realized that they'd previously received an email, which they had never received. So, stuff like that was
Right.
happening.
But they actually received the email before they bought the tickets. They were like,
Which
how did
is,
that, right? And I
which
almost
they
look
never
at that
said.
with the clocks. I wanted to mention, like, when
Yep.
I fill into that, I feel like time dilation, right? It's like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So this is the kind of thing that was happening. And then Alicia Thompson, she said that she had her clock set to California and Connecticut, but somehow her like device was showing her 3 clocks, and none of them were ever accurate. So she ended up always asking people, "What time is it?" So it's just really funny stuff happening with time.
She had an anomaly at her talk too.
She sure did. And she's looking forward to seeing the video to see exactly what the heck happened. Yeah, I don't want to give too much away because I don't
Right.
want to do any spoilers for her talk.
There's a lot of cool things like that. And we kind of touched on it, but a lot of the synchronicities, not only between us, but the stories that you hear, like the one you were just talking about, this ticket, strange thing happening with the tickets, and so many synchronicities people share with me that were coming in, that they had synchronicities that was going along with each of the people's talk and things like that. Just almost
Yeah.
as like a pre-validation, like, you're at the right place or something. So it's really cool to hear all of these stories, and it's just not happening to you, it's happening to everybody, and it's really ramping up.
Like the Pac-Man synchronicity. That was a really cool
Right.
validation. You
Exactly.
guys are gonna have to watch these videos to know what we're talking about. I'm telling you, you're gonna really, really like these videos.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody's excited. Everyone I talk to is really excited to have them released.
Yeah, so maybe we should talk about that, like Patreon, how we're going to release the videos, what schedule it is, because everyone watching now, if you're a Patreon member, you've already hopefully seen the Tom Campbell talk. So
At the
you know
very
that
least, right.
at the very least. So we're setting a schedule so that we're releasing them first to the Patreon, and then what are we going to do, 2 or 3 a week, something like that? We're still
We're
working on
gonna
it.
do one every couple days or so.
Every couple
We
of
don't
days.
have a set schedule just due to editing in case something happens, but every couple days or so, keep an eye on Patreon, and then a week later, we're gonna start releasing them. A week from our Patreon release, they'll be released on the YouTube, correct?
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. And any Patreon member can join. So whether it's the lower member, which I think is $3,
Right.
there's a $7 member and $11.
Any tier gets access, right?
Any of the tiers, yeah. So if you want to get like a week ahead of everyone, join us on Patreon.
Yeah, and you get the open tables green room discussions that we have before our episode, and we'll discuss a lot of things that we don't discuss on YouTube. So there are some benefits to being a Patreon member. Yeah.
And you'll only find those on Patreon too.
Yeah, those are only on Patreon.
And by the way, too, do we want to mention Nashville?
Yeah.
So I think we have agreed as a board. I've finally got my entire board to agree with me on this. Nashville, Tennessee has won the vote for the 2024 International Mandela Effect Conference. So round of applause there. Nashville, Tennessee is our
There was
set for our next
something else cool that we realized, though, Jerry, that we can actually have it on the same dates as the original year. They would fall on the same dates if we have it in November again. So
correct. We could run it the 7th through the 10th if possible. So that's still up in the air. The dates are still in there. That has not been voted on or agreed to. But yeah, if we agree with that, it would be the 7th to the 10th of November. So hopefully we'll be back on that schedule. We'll see. Labor Day weekend was an anomaly for us. It wasn't something we normally shoot for, right?
Right.
So hopefully we will return to the November scheduling for the conferences. We'll have to make a meeting about that. We'll have to agree on it. I'm not going to speak unilaterally.
Yeah, it's real early
but
on.
I'm getting a lot of nods here, so I don't feel that this is going to be out of place to be spoken. So Nashville, Tennessee, November. It's ends. I'm seeing here coming up. So hopefully this will be a great. Well, I know it'll be a great conference. It's IMEC, right?
Right.
So look forward to that 2024. That's over a year away. So we will be getting ready for that, folks. Keep that in mind. We are working on the next conference already. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to bring this to Nashville. I can't tell you how happy I am to bring this to Nashville.
It's a great location. It's a great central location. A lot of flights into there. It's within driving distance. And then if you look at all the states that actually touch Tennessee, I think it's like 9 different states that border it.
Something like that. I
Something
can't
crazy. It's like,
remember.
wow,
Yeah.
I didn't ever realize. Like, it's like next
We're
state over.
centrally
So,
located to most of the east side of the country.
yeah, that's really nice. So,
Yeah, and 2024 is the year of the dragon. So yeah, so it'll be a year of the dragon conference. So all of you time travelers, etc., everyone can join us. So mark your calendars now.
Absolutely, mark your calendars now. So, anything else we would like to bring up? I'm excited for next year, guys. I cannot wait. But anything else we would like to bring up? I would like to hear from the community. I would like to hear what speakers you guys would like to see us have at our next conference. That's what I want to hear back from the community. I want feedback, team at imec.world, TEAM at IMEC.WORLD. Who do you want us to present to you at the next International Mandela Effect Conference? I think that's a great question. Go ahead, Cynthia.
And also, what topics? So what kind of things are
Oh.
you most interested in hearing more about?
That's another
Very good.
great one. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Chris?
because I was going to say, Jerry, you gave a really good presentation because you broke down all the different theories for what could be causing the Mandela effect. Because maybe we could like dig deeper into that, because you listed out a lot of different things, and there may have been some other things you didn't include.
Right.
Some people might feel it's a combination of things. So yeah, the whole, going into all those possible, like, what are the causes of Mandela effects, and what's based in science and what's based in this, and yeah. So I like that a lot.
And you brought up one among other theories that I've got almost a whole nother list I could go down now with other theories. Like Chris brought one up to me that I had left off the list. It was only a list of 10 because there were 2 or 3 more that I could have added, but one that I didn't even think about. That will go on the list, Chris. I promise you that.
Okay.
Dream on.
Dream on.
All right, guys. But again, anything else you guys would like to add? Go ahead.
I just thought of one thing. So if you're watching this at some future time and you want to actually, quickly be able to find the talks and so forth, on imec.world, go to the conferences tab and go to the 2023 conference. What we're going to do is we're going to break it all down, just like we did for the 2020 conference, by speaker, their bio. You'll be able to click. You'll be able to click on the YouTube link. You'll be able to look at the power. If the presenters allow us, you'll be able to click on a PDF of their PowerPoint, so you can actually view their PowerPoint as well as including any extra materials that they may want to put on there. So imec.world, go to conferences, go to 2023 conference, and that'll be like a good resource for you to find everything nicely put together.
This mouse clinks every now and again. It still works. But absolutely, do make sure you stay up to date with imec.world. Also, the conference merch, we should start having that available pretty soon. I believe that's in the works for a merch store, if you will, for conference merch like we had there. I believe that is in the background. We don't have it up yet, right?
Yeah, no, everyone loved the t-shirts and so forth. So we're going to put those up so people can purchase those on their own. Yeah, they're pretty cool t-shirts.
I agree. Our resident artist Shane did an incredible job on those designs.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. You're the one that did designs, not me. With that said, then, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Christopher Anatra, you know him as the Quantum Businessman, Shane Robinson of Unbiased and on the Fence, Cynthia Sue Larson of Reality Shifters, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf of the Ripin' Rabbit Hole. We are the International Mandela Effect Conference. Remember, until next we meet, together we go.
Together we
grow.
Woo.
Woo.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Love you.
Take care.